Okay, so I'm going to import a SketchUp file into Vcarve. So the SketchUp file that I'm going to import is right here. This is the file. I'll include this in the instructables, the actual file, SketchUp.skp. It's done in, I keep it in 2017. I own Pro, but I use it 217 make, because then people that don't own Pro, that are that don't do SketchUp for business purposes, and still use the 2017 make version, the free version, they can import the files too. So that I export it as, basically save it as a 2017. But so this is the board, or what looks like it's going to be the board that we're going to run on the CNC machine. But I don't try this track, by the way, is that I'm going to hide right now. Okay, that is going to be these dados for that track. They're going to be done on a shaper, a separate machine. And then I'm going to hide the surface, the two-dimensional CNC run. You can see that this is really just a board. It has the two dados in it. Don't worry about the circles. Those are for references later on a drill press thing. But if you look at this again, now I hide the board itself. And so when I'm doing all this layout stuff to see where everything is going to fit, I basically keep this two-dimensional board, two-dimensional thing going. And so when I do my layouts, like for this kind of stuff, these are the drill presses. I need to know where they're going to fit. I want to be able to show those, the bandsaw brackets, the clamps that are going to go on here. When I do all that, I like to be able to physically see the board, and especially when I get into the bracketing, like underneath, and I get into the bracketing, the basically the mounts that are going to be used for different mounting systems, scaffolding, toolbox mounting, and things like that. I want to be able to see the board itself. But when it really comes down to it, and when you come down to the CNC part and over to Vcarve, I just want a two-dimensional. I only want a two-dimensional item. So this is an index. It's horizontal landscape mode because I can fit a lot more on it, left to right, and do all my notes. And this is more for the people using it, myself. But when it comes to the CNC, I have a separate group over here. So if I zoom out and I do a edit, or excuse me, view hidden geometry, you're going to see that I've got tons of stuff throughout this whole model. There's that bench over here. Here's some other stuff going on, but there's a lot of stuff out there. But when I click on this CNC tab, it hides everything else, and all that's left is this one group that has all my CNC stuff. Then inside that group, when I'm preparing for sending it over to or receiving it in Vcarve, then I take even the things that are inside of there. So I'm going to control click, control click, control click, control click, and then right click, hide. I do not need to hide the notations or the dimensions because those will not carry over to Vcarve. Basically what I'm left with is this board right here, or it's a two-dimensional thing. It's not a three-dimensional thing, okay? Because three dimensions to me does not work out well in Vcarve. This is my solution to the whole thing. And if you notice that this board is 32 inches high, so the halfway point is 16 inches. So when I put that board on the CNC machine, the halfway point is going to be 16 inches that way, and then 5.5 inches that way. So those are just my own notations. But now I would end up doing a file, save as, and then I'm going to save it as, I do incremental savings, so I use some different formats for that, but I'm saving it as, and that increment was 0.5. Now I'm going to go over to Vcarve. So I have just basically a blank Vcarve screen. I go up to create new file, and the width of that board is going to be 11 inches. That's true. The height is going to be 24 inches because that's the capacity of the machine. Really it's 25 or 25.5, something like that, but 24 call it. And even though the board is 32 inches, I have to tell it 24, otherwise Vcarve will scold me. And then I'm going to go with a thickness of 1 inch for the material. I'm going to say OK. Then to bring that file in, that SketchUp file in, I'm going to go up to Import Vectors. I clicked on that. You can see the file right here. I'm going to say open. When I do that, it takes a little bit of gyrating. It's going to go into this. If you could click on pause, you can see the settings that I have. I don't know what my settings are. I don't know enough about Vcarve to do that. So, but when I click on OK, you can see the 32-inch board is not aligned with the workspace. So if I go over to this one right here, Align Selected Objects, and then I click on that, it pops up this separate window. I go to the center one up here, click on that, and now what it did is it took it and it placed it, it centered it, at least the 24-inch is centered on the 32. So that's really what I've got to work with. The next step that I would do is just, you can see everything is selected right now, and that doesn't work very well. So I'm just going to go in here somewhere and just click. So now everything is deselected. Now to start focusing in on what it is that I want to do, I'm going to go up to zoom, and then just basically I'm going to start with like a little bit more than half the sheet. So now when I go into here, I can really kind of see what's going on with everything. So now, okay, well, how do I set up all those holes? Wow, that's a lot of cavities. Well, this is where you go back to the by clicking down at the bottom of the screen. I have a tab open for my SketchUp file, so you can look at the vertical version, which is exactly the same as what you have here, right, to help you with reference, or you can go up to the index where it tells you a little bit more about that particular cavity, which will help set up, all right, what do I want for depth, how many passes, and things like that. So let's go to Vcarve. Let's get started. So I start always with the center hole, which is right here. So let's just go in and zoom on the center a little more. So I'm zooming on that. Well, I have a center hole right here, and then the only thing I don't like is I see that little thing right there, and there's something wrong there. That's not normal. That shouldn't be there. So let's get rid of that. That's something that maybe carried over from before. So I'm going to get rid of that. You're not going to normally have to do that, but I do need to fix it right now. And sure enough, that was a little something that must have carried over from another hole. So I want to make sure I don't have that in there, otherwise that's going to be a problem later. So I'm going to get rid of that. It's gone. I'll look at it through the X-ray, and now I'm good to go. So now I can go back to Vcarve, and I've got what I need. Now this is that center hole. So I'm going to click on that, and I like it to have a center hole of the whole sheet, so that if something goes wrong during my CNC run, and I have to reset everything, the board or whatever, let's say a machine, the bit breaks or a machine jams up or something like that, who knows. So I'm going to go to 1.00 on depth of that, and then I'm going to call that center pin at 1.00. I'm going to calculate. It's going to automatically jump over there. It's so small that it's not even showing right there, but it is there. Like if I ran a preview of the toolpath, now you can see the hole there. Okay, so then I go back to 2 view. It automatically jumps back to this really small view. So then I would go into, again, zoom into it. Now I just need to start picking and choosing what is it that I want to work on. If I get too crazy, it gets tough to remember everything. So since I've got all these alignment holes, and I know those are all 1/4 inch diameter, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to zoom in even a little bit more. Okay, so I've got alignment holes, and I don't need these little X's in there. I want to get rid of those. Again, I'm going to do that. I'll go back to SketchUp later and get rid of those. You don't need those in Vcarve. I use them a lot when I'm laying out the SketchUp because it helps me with the layout itself. And again, I'm going into that, deleting it, deleting it, deleting it. So those would confuse Vcarve. You'd get a notice saying there's certain things that aren't going to appear. So now if I go back to SketchUp and do the same thing, and you can see those marks right there. I'm going to get rid of those so they don't carry over next time, if there is a next time. So again, even though you use, oops, I didn't mean to take the red away. Even though you use these little center point markers in SketchUp, you can see they're really helpful, like in here. I would recommend not carrying I would recommend deleting them before you carry it over to Vcarve. So even though I used those little center marks for the layout on almost all those circles earlier, I got rid of them. Now I go back to Vcarve, and let's just start at the top. So I'm going to scroll bar up to the top. Again, these areas here, these holes, are not going to be on the CNC run. They're going to have to be done manually. But that is where I'm okay to leave the little marks, because that's going to help later when I go into my layout, my cut list, for when I get into this kind of stuff where I'm dimensioning things. Well, then I can use those to dimension where those holes are going to be. So that's helpful there. But for right now, we're not going to use those. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and I'm going to start on all the 1/4 inch holes that I know of. Because the 1/4 inch holes I can run in Vcarve by using a single 1 or 2 passes. I don't have to do 8 passes because I'm using a 1/4 inch up spiral bit. And it's basically just going to plunge right down in all those 1/4 inch holes. So I'm going here, here, here. I'm shift clicking on all of those. And I could do some selecting. Now these here are also full throughs at 1.0 inside there. So you can see I didn't select this. I did select the center because those are 1/4 inch. I did not select this because that's 3/8, and that needs more than 1 or 2 passes. That's going to need 8. These marks here are for dimensioning later on. So I'm shift click. Again, they are 1/4 inch. These are not 1/4 inch. Going over here on the side, I have a whole bunch of 1/4 inch holes, and they're all in alignment, so I can go ahead and shift and select. So those are all selected. And again, because I use shift, all these other ones up here are still selected. Now, we got to zoom in a little further because these are goofy. These are for pencils. And the pencils, if you don't have 2 holes, then they don't stand upright. So I'm going to shift click the inside hole only. Shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click. And then I'm going to use my bottom scroll bar. Do I have any more over there? Not necessarily. And I'm going to, now I get a different view. I have to zoom to drawing. I'm going to click on the zoom again. Now I'm back to normal. These are 1/4 inch. No, they're not. So I'm going to shift click. That unclicked it. Oh, did I lose everything? How about that? I did. All right. So shift, drag, shift, drag, shift, drag, click, click, shift click, shift click. That gets you irritated when that happens, but it's all so part of the game, right? Shift, drag. I got all those. Inside. These are tough to see. Inside, 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 inside. Not the outside, but the inside. I'm not going to select these. Those are glue brushes, and those would be those would be larger than the that size, larger than. Okay, now I get over here, and I happen to know these 5 holes are full throughs still, so I'm going to shift click on those. But if I go over to SketchUp and I go to my index, and I'm going to zoom in on that, and I look at those outside holes, some of those are full through and some are not. So these, because they're that orange color, those 2, those are full through because there's going to be something underneath there that I'm going to use for alignment. However, right here I want to have this for storage of a center punch, a metalworker center punch, and here I want to have storage of a hinge bit. So I do not want those to go full through. So let's go back. So again, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, because those are full throughs, but I did not click on those. Now I'm going to have to kind of remember those as I get further. Okay, now this is a repeat of above, so I can shift drag those three, I got them. Shift drag those, I've got them. Shift drag those, I've got them, but not including this whole outer, right? I can click drag, or excuse me, click, shift click on the inside, 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 shift click, and then these two down here, shift click, shift click. So without doing anything else, no clicking anywhere, because otherwise you'll lose again, I'm just scrolling to see what I got and trying to remember, do I have everything? And if you recall, I already did the center pin as a separate run. So without clicking anywhere else, I'm going to click on Toolpaths, close. This one right here, I'm already set up at 1.0. Now this is where I'm talking about editing the passes. You don't need 8 passes, so I'm downshifting. Let's go 2, and I have an auto hide. So now I'm going to go down here and call those all 1/4 inch full through at 1.00. Calculate. Okay, now you can see there's a lot more going on. Now I could run a test right now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to do that later. All right, so let's go back, and before I forget, I think I like to catch these two right here. So there's that one and that one. Those are 1/4 inch. But I don't want them full through. I want those at, let's say, 0.9. So they're enough to hold the tool, but not all the way through. And again, I don't need 7 passes. I can go with 2. And those are punch, and just call it in whatever punch hinge storage at 0.9. Calculate. So now I remember I've got those. Now let's just start up at the top again. I'm scrolling up. Okay. So now what I've got is, now I'll go ahead and I'll do some of the larger holes that are also full through. So I know this is a full through, and the reason I know that is if I go to SketchUp, and actually they're not full through. Those are blue, and those are for Forstner bits. And so the Forstner bits, I want to be able to stand up the Forstner bits using the 3/8 inch shaft on them. So those are not full through. So let's go ahead, and I've got 3 of those over here, and then I've got 3 over here, and then I've got some other that are 0.9, 0.9, 0.9 because they're blue, right? I'm not going to do these yet because I'll show you why later. But I am going to do these. So I'm just kind of memorizing 3 here at blue, 3 here at blue. Technically I could do this guy. So do I want to do that? Let's go ahead and we won't do him. Okay, so again, here I've got my Forstner bit. Now this one is actually off the chart right here. So I might as well delete it because I'm not going to do that manually. I'll end up with 2 of those. So this is where I sometimes make corrections to SketchUp while I'm in Vcarve. So I'm going to get rid of that guy. And I'm going to get rid of these guy. I should have known better than that. And then now I can go back to Vcarve. I already got rid of it there. So now I've got my Forstner bit, Forstner bit. What else did I have there? Again, it gets complicated. gets complicated. None of these, right? All right. So let's go ahead and do those right away. So I'm shift click, shift click, shift click. And again, I should still have those others up there. Yep, they're clicked. That doesn't seem right either, you know. Trying to figure that one out. Did I accidentally move something? I don't like that. Control Z. Yeah, how about that? See, I accidentally moved something when I was in Vcarve, and because that wasn't right. All right. So however I did that, I don't know. But so those are correct now. So I'm going to do a shift click, shift click, shift click. And I'm going to scroll back up, make sure I didn't accidentally do it again. I did not, so everything's fine. So again, that was an accident, but that shouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have a hole partially over the top of another hole. And then I think these two are partial throughs. So let's just look at, yep, they're the blue guys. So shift click, shift click. Let's go down, I'm scrolling down a little further. How about this guy here? What is he? That is, nope, that's a full through. That's for a wrench. So really I just have the two that are down here left, which is this one. Shift click, and then just to make sure, I'm going to scroll. I've got a couple there, a couple there, a couple there, and a couple there. Okay, so all of those close are that one there. And then they are all for bits. So I'm going to do those at 0.75, just for grins. So it wants to do 6 passes, but which I'll go ahead with. And then I'll go bit storage at 0.75, just for reference. I calculate. So there we go. I've got those. Now let's go back up here again. I have. All right, so I already punched a quarter-inch hole through here. That's full through. That I remember. Now these are countersinks for some joineries that we're going to do, mounting the foot later. So shift, 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 shift. Now there's another way we could have done this. We could have done these holes first, because we're going to take those down to 0.375. We could have done those. Then we could have come back and done the holes, the quarter-inch holes on the inside with a start height of 0.375 and then a finish of 0.625, the difference. But that's too hard to remember for me. So I just do it the other way around. It'll take a little bit longer this way, but not a big deal. Now there's another group of those down here. Shift, click, shift, click, shift, click, shift, click. And I'm just going to scroll up to make sure those other ones are selected. They are. All right. And what these are this right here. And they're going to go to 0.375. That allows me enough room for a bolt to go in there or a GRK. And then is actually a little bit left over at the top that if you wanted to, you could put a 3/4 inch plug in there, but definitely the bolt head will be recessed so it won't bump into anything. So again, 0.375 is just a magic number. Does it need 3 passes? I'm going to say no, because I already carved out the inside, so that I'm going to go with just 2 passes. It'll just save some time later. And say okay. And I'm going to, if this is hardwood, I'm going to be turning down the speed anyhow to a slower speed. So I'm going to do this. These are countersinks at 0.375. And again, when I do the CNC run, I'll explain it later, but if it's hardwood, I'm going to slow down the speed right on the machine itself. I'm not going to slow it down here. I'll just slow it on the machine. That way I have the same settings for pine as I do for hardwood, except I could just tweak that adjustment on the machine itself. All right, I'm just clicking somewhere out here to see where we're at. Now let's just think this through. Do I have these holes? Yes. Do I have these? Yes. Do I have all these? Yes. Do I have all these? Yes. Did I get this guy? No, I did not. This guy is a wrench. It's a hex. It's a socket wrench. And then I have another one here. Because I use those frequently, I like to have those handy. So I'll shift click. There's two of those. And those I do want to have go full through because they're a handle. And then by going full through, I'm going to go back up here to 1.0. Do I want 8 passes? Probably. Again, especially if it's hardwood. These are going to take a little while, but boy, are they ever come in handy. So this would be socket handles at 1.00. Calculate. I go back to 2D view. All right, so I've got those. Now let's just start again at the top, scrolling. So I've got those. I already got these guys. I feel comfortable. I got these. So let's just go back up there and let's see what else we got. Okay, so this right here is a mortise. Inside that mortise is a 3/8 inch hole. There's two of those on the job. So I've got shift click, and I'm going to go ahead and run. I could have caught those earlier, but I want those at full through, and those would be mortise holes at 1.0. Say calculate. Now it would not be a bad thing to do a file, save as right now so I don't lose everything, and this would be tray 1 November 23-01. And again, that way at least I've got everything saved in case I have a crash of some sort. So I didn't save the toolpath yet because I don't need to, but now, did I set those up? Can't even remember. Mortise holes at 1.0. Yes, I did. Okay. So now let's go ahead, since I'm at that stage, and I'll do the mortises themselves. So again, scrolling up to the top. So there's the mortise. I clicked on it. And now I'm going to do a shift click on the second mortise. And those I want to be 0.375. And that covers the mortise itself, the tenon that's going to be going into there, the threaded tenon, plus it includes enough. The threaded tenon is a 1/4 inch, but there's also the GRKs, and so the heads of those need some space as well. So I found that 0.375 just seems to work. Do I need 3 passes? Probably. Again, especially if it's hardwood. So then I'm just going to say mortises at 0.375. Calculate. So now those show. Now again I'm going to click somewhere else. Go back up to top again. So again I got all of these. I got all of these. I got this guy here. I've got my mortises. So what's the next kind of group down? So then what I've got here, I already did the holes inside there, but these are for Bessie clamps. So I'm clicking on that, not a shift click. A shift click would have picked up some other stuff that I still had clicked earlier. So this is just a just a click on that, and then there's another one down here. So let's go ahead and click on shift click on that. So I have 2 of those ready to go. Now this one, instead of using this guy here, instead of using pocket toolpath, this one I'm going to use profile toolpath. So I do want that to go full through. So 1.0 is correct. Do I want 10 passes? Yes, I do, because it's going to, this is probably one of the toughest on the bit, because it's just making a straight path all the way around, 1/4 inch wide, both sides. It's got wood on both sides. It's not going to eat out the center. It's only going to make, you'll see that in a second. But when you do when you do the profile toolpath, there's this one down here that you can click, which you need to click, add tabs. So I'm going to click on edit tabs. I say add tabs, and it added 2 tabs. Actually, it added them to both the upper and the lower. So right now I want to move that tab over a little bit because I don't like it here. You'll see that later when I do the cleanup. I'm scrolling down, and then I'm just going to drag that over to there. I just like the position better there. Now again, I have auto hide. So now I go down to close, and I do have to scroll down to get at the area where I can name it. And then here I'm going to call those Bessie tabbed at 1.00. I'm going to say calculate. All right, so now let's go back to 2D view, and then again clicking somewhere else just to basically deselect everything. Again, I'm starting at the top and I'm going to scroll my way down. Do I have all of these? Yes. Do I have these? Yes. Do I have that? Yes. Did I catch these? Did I catch those? I don't think I did. How about that? So those are for a task auto center finder. So I clicked, I shift click, and then I shift click. Now these I want to go down. I don't want them to, there's a lot of digging that goes on there. That's a lot of hole, right? So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go to 0.75 on that. I'm not going to go full through. 6 passes, yes. And then I'm going to call that task center, and then at 0.75. Calculate. All right, I got down this far, so now I scroll a little further. And then did I get all those? Yes, I did. Those are all those 1/4-inch holes. They're going to be for bits. Did I get all these 1/4-inch holes? Yes, I did. All right, now what do we have? So so I have slots. I have this is for speed square. I'm going to shift click. That's for a Incra, the 6-inch one. This is for I'm going to shift click on that. That's also for an Incra. This one is for a glue. Excuse me, not a glue, but what do you call it? That is for a scraper, a particular scraper. I'll cover that later, but that one's not going to go full through. So let's just stick with these 3 right now, again, because it's getting kind of complicated. Do I want those to go full through? Yes. So I want to change to 1.00. Do I want 8 passes? Yes. Again, those are tough ones because those are just a 1/4-inch wide. There's going to be both wood material on both sides of that bit, all the way through, all the way down, up and down. And then I'm going to call those Incra speed slots at 1.00. Calculate. All right, let's go back here. This one, let's get it right away. That is a slot. That's for a scraper, a hide scraper, H-Y-D-E. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so when I say something about a particular product, it's because I like it. Now that one, I happen to know it's better off not to go full through, so I'm going to put that at 0.5, which is plenty depth to hold the scraper into position, but yeah, let's go 0.5. So then the pocket is going to be a hide scraper at I'm going to go 0.75, and so I'm going to go up here and change this to 0.75. Calculate. Then I've got that. Got this. I already got that center punch. Okay, so let's get these holes right away. Now those I do want to zoom in on a little more, and if you recall, those are pencils, and I already did the holes in the middle. And if you have to, you can go back to your Toolpaths and you can click on, like here, this one, all, and if I click on that, it should show that these are, yeah, there's a little dot in the middle. It's hard to see, but there's a little dot in the middle, which tells me that those have already had some sort of something going on. If I unclick this, the dots go away. So what I want to do is I want just the outer. So click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click. As crazy as this may seem, pencils don't fit in a 1/4-inch hole. Pencils need a little bit larger, so I made those a little bit larger in SketchUp. But the tip of the pencil is so long that by the time you stick them in the wood, that the pencils tip over if they have a tip on them. So that's why I did a 1/4 inch hole full through earlier. The tip of the pencil, a sharp pencil, will go all the way down and down through the bottom. But the rest of the pencil can't make it because that 1/4 inch will stop them. But now we have the outers, and on those I have two options here. I can use this here. So let's go ahead and do that. So basically I have a profile type, and I only want that to go down, let's say let's go to 0.9. What the heck. All right. Now that's going to do the inside only, which is fine. And I don't need any tabs because I already have a hole in there. So when this bit goes down in there, it's going to go down in, and there's nothing really going to resist. So I can change my passes on that. Let's go to 3 passes. So it's basically going to go down about 3/8 of an inch in a hole that already exists, for the most part already exists, and it's just going to carve out the outer portion of that. It's going to do that on each one of those. That's kind of fun to watch. So let's do it that way. The other way we could have done it is we could have done a full through using the other method, and then again I could have reduced the paths because most of the meat is already gone. So on this one it's going to be pencil outer, let's just call it pencil rim at 1 point, no, that's at 0.9, at 0.9. Come on, Mike, 0.9, there we go. And that, I'm going to have to scroll down a little bit to get at it and say okay. There's my toolpaths. Back to 2D view. Now again, I'm zoomed in quite a ways, so I don't like that. I'm not seeing enough, so I'm going to click on view, zoom to drawing. Maybe there's a better way to do this. And then I'm going to go there and pick up where I left off, which is right down in there. Okay, so I got those outers, and you can see there's some stuff going on there now. I already got this guy. Did I get the caliper? No. Okay, so these guys here, I'm going to kind of place them somewhat in the same path. So I've got, that's a caliper, a digital caliper. It's going to go full through. You can see the little nubbies for those little nubbies that are on the caliper. This is glue, the tip of a glue jar, and I clicked on it, but I didn't shift click. So because of that, I lost this guy. So now I'll just go back and shift click on him. So I've got this guy inside, and this is Gorilla Glue, that goofy shaped tab. So I shift that. So I've got 3 of them in there. So let's just go ahead and set that up. So I've got that. I want those at 1.0. And do I want 8 passes? Probably. Might be able to get by with 7, but you know, got plenty of time. So this would be glue tip and callip at 1.00. And in fact, I'm going to call those inner. And you'll see why in a minute as I calculate. Got those. Now remember, I've got the inners already done of those. So the glue, let's do that right away. There's my glue. That's wood glue, conventional. This is Gorilla Glue. And on those, I have already got the inside done. So I am going to, I still need to, I'm going to use this one. I need to use that. But I'm only going to go down, let's just say it's for the cap, so let's go to 0.5. That should work. And then passes, again, a lot of the meat is already cut out from the inside. This is a little risque, but I'm going to go to 0.3, or I'm going to go to 3 passes. I can make that decision after I see it run. And these would be glue outer at 0.5. I could go deeper, but it just takes longer and you don't need all that depth. These will hold the glue, okay, upside down. So I've got those guys. Now I'm still in this range here. This guy here is a 9-inch DeWalt ruler. It fits like a glove. So that one I'm going to go to 0.5 is plenty. Edit passes, I better stick with 4. And this would be the DeWalt 9-foot tape at 0.5. Again, I could go deeper, but it just takes more time to run the CNC run, harder on the bit, the whole ball of wax. Okay, so do I have everything in here? Yes. Do I have this? Did I get the glue brushes? Can't remember, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on those. And then those glue brushes, they're larger than a 1/4 inch. So I have down here, I have storage, I have bit storage, countersinks, socket handles, more. I don't think I did those, because if I clicked on any of those, do they light up the center? No, no. Up, how about that? There it is, bit storage. Okay, so this one right here lit that up. So I already did those, so I don't need to do them again. You can see again, if I click on bit storage, they're under bit storage even though they're glue brushes. So now I do need to go back up to view, to zoom to drawing. And again, now I'm going to zoom down into that range there. Those are those 2 glue brushes. In fact, I could go ahead, go back to bit storage, and rename bit and glue brush at 0.75. Enter. Okay, so now it kind of reminds me later that I did already get those. Now we'll go down to here. This was that socket wrench that we already did earlier, I'm quite sure. So let's just go ahead and check. Do I have socket right there? I click on socket and you can see it's lit up, so it already is scheduled to go. In fact, there's the arrows showing the path it's going to take, so I'm going to unclick that. I'm clicking here to get rid of my... Now let's go back down here. Did I get everything? These are all the 1/4 inch holes from earlier, 1/4 inch inside. Again, if I'm not sure, I think I know what they are, but let's just double check. I think I had some countersinks, and that was... where are the countersinks? Okay, there's my countersinks. Yes, okay, the countersinks are already done. I'm going to unclick that. These guys I know I did with the 1/4 inch. These I know I did. And then these guys here, they're the bit storage. They're the Forstner bits. And just to make sure, let's just look at, where do I have those? Socket handles, mortise, holes. Well, and let's just double check. I'm clicking on it, unclicking. Mortises, unclicking. Bessie's, no. Task, no. Incra, no. And again, you can see that you have to, it's not the height scraper, it's not the glue tips, so it's possible that I did not get those. Center pin, punch storage. Oh, there they are. Okay, so they were under bit and glue. They showed up right here, those insides. You can see that. So I did already have those. Now again, it wouldn't have been the end of the world if I had created a new path form. They would just basically re-drill the holes every time. So I now have everything, I believe, anyhow, that's all set to go. So again, I'm going to do a file, save as, just it's already labeled. I just want to save it in case something happens, a freeze up on my computer or whatever. I don't want to waste all that time, have to do it over again. So then now I am going to go to my 3D view. All right, there's everything, and I am going to I'm going to unclick that or click it. So everything is now unclicked. I'm going to click it. Now everything is clicked, right? Now I'm going to go to preview visible toolpaths, and it's going to go like crazy. And I had it set, the speed set quite high because I wanted it to go fast. So of that preview. So right here you can set the speed, and I had it set up to the maximum. Basically, right now I just want to do a visual of, does it seem like I have everything? And I don't like to use the zoom in on this one because it seems like the zooms in this changed it into a 3D mode, and then I don't know how to get it back to 2D. So on this one no problem, but this one it doesn't seem to work. Okay, so visually I've got my two at the end, though there is a matchup there. There's a matchup here with that. I've got my alignment stuff here with the pin here. And look, am I missing one right here? I think I might be missing one. And because I've got one down here and here and here and here, but it's possible that it's just not showing because of the way that it shows. So do I click on zoom, or do I go back to 2V view? And that was the one I'm talking about missing. And I know that those are the 1/4 inch holes. So task center, Incra, Mortise, let's go up to 1/4 inch holes. There we go. So I click on 1/4 inch holes, and then if I zoom in, it's capturing. I can see a little dot in there. Let's zoom in a little further. Okay, again, you can see the dot in there, but there is no dot in here, so I did miss that. Now I'm going to fix it without causing too much trouble. Zoom to drawing. Now I'm going to zoom again. I'm going to zoom into that area up there, so I have reasonably good focus. I have a dot, a dot, a dot, a dot, but not a dot here, right? So now I go back to the 1/4 inch right here. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to say right click, edit. Okay, so I'm not doing anything else. All of these are selected, you can see that, but I'm going to shift click on that one. So now that's included with all the rest. Toolpath, go down to calculate. Now I can just double check that. I'm going to reset the preview, and on this one I'm going to deselect everything. I'm going to select all 1/4 inch holes, and I'm going to say preview. So see, now it showed up there. In fact, there's all the other 1/4 inch holes as well. You can see where they all are. I have 3 here, is that correct? Yeah, those are those tabs inside of the Bessies. Okay, so let's go back here then. I'm going to reset the preview. Now I'm going to click on that so it clicks everything. I'm going to say preview visible toolpath, and it's running everything. But now you can see up here that that missing hole is now there, so it matches up. And again, this is just a visual. You have to know the drawing, but you can always go back to SketchUp to kind of also look and see what's going on there, or you can go to the CNC run, which is the vertical version, and you can see there. In SketchUp you can zoom in and see if everything looks okay. Do I have those countersinks? Okay, are there holes in the middle of those? And I don't know. I don't know if there's holes in the middle of these. That bothers me. So I go to 2D view, and yes, there are. They just weren't showing up on the run. And so if I run, let's just do that again. Let's just do the 1/4 inch holes. So I'm going to reset the preview, select 1/4 inch holes, and I'm going to say preview the toolpaths. And is it doing those holes, which should be the counter bores? It should be inside those counter bores. And this is not doing them. So yep, it's doing them down below, but it's not doing them up above. Okay, so rather than fooling with all of those, and if I have to double them up, I double them up. So I'm going to go to those 4 that are not showing. I'm shift click, shift click, shift click. Then I'm going to set up a separate toolpath for them. Again, they made double drill. I want those to go full through. Those are 1/4 inch holes, so I can edit the passes, go down to 2, and I'm going to say 1/4 inch inside counter bores at 1.00. I'm going to say calculate. Okay, so now I'm going to have those. I'm comfortable with that. But what I'm going to do is take this one, so since it really applies close to these up here, use the up arrow, click, click, click. It's constantly sending it up. There, now it's right underneath there. And later on, if I decide I do have those holes in there, after all, then I can go ahead and delete that. So then, again, let's click them. I'm going to reset preview. I'm going to click on here, preview visible toolpaths. You can see why you really do want to look at those the preview. Okay, and then I've got my 3 of those guys. I have my holes here. I have my Incra. I have a partial here. I have my glue brushes. I have both holes for the glue. I have all these guys. Now I have those partial throughs. Those are for the bits. There's a partial through right there, a partial through right there for the bits. These are all full throughs for bolt storage. My mortise. And then you can see now, by the way, these holes show inside the countersinks where they didn't show before. So they, just like they show down here, they're good to go. These are my alignments and some other stuff that's going to go on below. So I'm comfortable with that. Now I'm going to do a toolpath. Click on that. Close. Go to the Save Toolpath icon. Click on that. Again, I'm making sure that all these are selected, which they are. Like if I had made a mistake and I needed to rerun just one part of it, you can actually go in and deselect all of those. And before you take that board off the CNC machine, for instance, you could click on just this one and then save that as a separate toolpath. And since the board is already in the machine and you have that center pin, even if you took it out of the machine and you had to put it back in, that's why I do this center pin right here, is that you could put it in, align your bit into that existing hole. Now everything's aligned, and then rerun, let's say in this case, those 4 inside holes, and you'd be good to go. But we don't want to do that. We want to do everything. So I'm going to click in on that. Again, scrolling down to make sure they're all clicked. Save the toolpath. And this I'm going to call tray November 23-01, which may be the same name as the other file up here, but it's not going to hurt because it's a tap file. So if I'm worried about it, it'll warn me. Okay, so now I have the tap file saved, and I'm going to go ahead and, because I made a couple of changes, save as. I'm going to save the actual CRV file. Again, it's going to warn me. Say yes. And then I made a couple of changes to the SketchUp file. So I do want to go back and save that file, save as, and it's a slightly different version. So I up my incrementally up to 6, say save. So now I have that file ready to go. Now, if I go into I won't do this here, but if I go into Outlook, I'm going to send myself the SketchUp file. By doing that, then I can pull it up on my Android device when I'm out in the shed. In my Android device, I'll open up my email. I'll import that, I'll bring that file in, that SketchUp file, and then I'll have access to that. So when the CNC is running, I'll be able to look at what we see right here. I'll be able to zoom in on it while it's running and say, okay, is it doing everything it's supposed to do, blah, blah, blah. So that's how I would transfer or import a SketchUp into a Vcarve. So it's preparing the SketchUp file before you go to Vcarve. Again, a huge key to that is doing 2-dimensional rather than 3. And even though this is eventually going to be a 3-dimensional item, which is the board, right? And again, I cheated. This is just an overlay. I do not use layers. Maybe layers would work, but I really like this method of doing it. In fact, this circle right here is for a drill press. That's not even part of anything. That's just to remind me that that's where the drill presses are going to go. All right. Then the last thing I would do is when I'm in Vcarve, I would go to my go right here into my documents. If I look at go down here to the micro workbench, and what you're going to see here is the tap file for the tray that I just saved at 7:54 a.m. Now that's going to go onto a thumb drive, and then so that I also have a backup of my SketchUp, I'm going to click a control click. So I've got the SketchUp file included in that, and there's no reason not to keep the CRV file on a thumb drive for a while. Again, just as additional backup. So I now have 3 files. I'm going to right click, copy, and then I have a thumb drive in my pocket here somewhere, I think. You can't see me, but I'm looking through my pockets, and I found one. I found a thumb drive, and I'm going to stick it into my computer, which you cannot see me doing. You might have heard that part of it. It's pulling up a Memorex USB, and on that Memorex USB there were already some older versions. Now I want to delete those, because otherwise when you get into the CNC machine, and it's going to show the tap files that are already in there, and it just becomes confusing. Like it's going to show tray November 21, and it's going to show something else, a rerun. And so rather than confusing there, because it's really like a DOS screen, it's not very user-friendly, I'm going to delete those. Are you sure we want to delete those? Yes. So now I basically have this folder is empty. I right-click on that Memorex, and I'm going to say paste. So now what it's doing is it's pasting the 3 that I just copied into memory. It pasted today's version of the SketchUp file. It pasted that one of November 23rd that I did at 7:55, the tap file, and it pasted the November 23rd CRV file. So again, the tap file and the SketchUp are really only for backups, just in case something were to happen to my computer. The tap file is the only one that's going to show up. And now I want to go close that out, and then I do want to go down to my, you can't see it, but it's safely remove hardware. I'm going to say eject, and then I'm going to let it eject and tell me it's safe to remove the thumb drive, which it is, and that's the end of it. Now the rest of this will happen in the shop itself. So hey, thanks much. Long video, but thanks.